What about those Elder Flame weapon skins? At least they weren't cake. Hope you caught some of that Valorant fan art too. Okay, dude. I guess whoever writes these is just a big memer. On this patch, 4 agents got some On to this patch, 4 agents got some polish, with Viper coming away with a series of buffs, including a per second increase of her decay against enemies. You're also going to have to work a bit extra now if you want to use those powerful Brimstone and Raise ults. A bug fix for the classic gave us an opportunity to go in and tune the weapon's behavior. Hey, while you're in the pre-round buy menu, take a look at those new easier to compare stats. Viper's Pit. That is her ultimate. Max time outside of her ult before it collapses changed from 5 to 12. This means that bar when you exit her ultimate, when it goes down and then once it hits that end, that was 5 seconds. Now it's 12, so it's over double. I think that's pretty good, actually. If you save her ult for late round, that might actually be pretty good. Viper can hold the ability key to drop her ult early. So now she can fake that she's not in her ultimate anymore. It sounds like. Well, maybe not. But she can probably like step right out of her ult and hit the ult again and it'll drop. So that's like an outplay mechanic for Viper, which I think is good. Enemies in Viper's Pit have their minimap obscured and do not provide minimap detection to their allies. Increases the brightness of the red enemy glow at the edge of Viper's near sight. So only Vipers or everybody's? Because if they make Viper have a actual big advantage inside of her ult, that might actually be good. With Viper being allowed out of her ult for such a short period of time, we felt like she was not only limited in the play she could make, but also gave too much continuous information to her enemies. The ability to move outside the ult smoke more freely should provide some new and interesting mind games for Viper to play, and hopefully puts the strategic pressure back on the enemy. The other improvements should push Viper's advantage in her own smoke and help her avoid getting traded by enemies using minimap vision to target her. I think that's good. So that's exactly what I said. Basically, there's actually a level of outplay mechanic now that you can actually play around her ult more. She has a buff. She actually has an advantage inside of her own ult, which I think is also good. Because the worst thing that would happen is the other team would just like walk into your ultimate and just kill you. They just trade on you. It's pretty annoying. Decay. Enemy decay per second increase from 10 to 15 from all sources. So it's like a 50% buff. After exiting Viper Smoke, enemy decay stands for 2.5 seconds before starting to fade. Okay, this is a big one now. If you just step right outside of the smoke, you don't just instantly start getting health back. There's a 2.5 second delay, which I think is huge. Because usually with her ult, you can walk through it, try to clear some area, and then walk out, and within a second or two, you're already back at full HP. Now, people just like walk through her smokes and people walk through her wall like no problem. But now, I don't know. I think this might be too much. I think 2.5 seconds, that's a long time outside of a... to take damage from a smoke. Let's see what they say about it. Viper's decay depleting so quickly from enemies was limiting the advantage it provided and wasn't creating the threat we had hoped for as a result. Adding a delay before it fades will hopefully widen the window where Viper and her team can capitalize and pair with the Viper's Pit updates to provide fresh ways to play around her ult. So basically, the decay is faster, so it's 50% faster than it was, and it also stays for 2.5 seconds when you walk out. That is going to be big, dude. That is actually going to be big. Now this seems like a big one too. Having both Poison Cloud and Toxic Screen active does not consume additional fuel beyond the cost of having one active. This to me is also a big one, because if you wanted to have both your smoke and your wall up, it would just deplete her fuel super fast. Now it looks like they're making it just, you can have both up for the same amount of time and it's long. So interesting. Very interesting, dude. They changed her a lot, dude. Her ult seems like it's going to be really good now. I mean, it's still similar to what it was. The decay thing is pretty big, and now the fuel thing, like, you can actually keep both up for a long time. Interesting. The reduction in total uptime when both her vision boxes were active was making it difficult for Viper to use both tools together. Since Viper Smoke has so much commitment and makes up so much of her kit, we want her to use them in tandem to create powerful options for her team to take sights. Look how slow you have. Like, look how slow it takes now. They doubled it. Yeah. Wait, I kind of want. How do I turn my language to Korean? I kind of want my Viper to do that. Ah, okay. So her ult makes it literally like the same as Oben. So you literally your minimap is completely blocked. Okay, and then it's like if your teammate spots the Viper inside of her ult, it used to be, see this is the before, it used to be on the radar, you would see her, but now you can't do that, so you can't line up the radar and shoot her through your ult from the people that are outside of it. So I think that's still, that's a buff for Viper too. So here again you see, before when both the wall and the smoke were up, you can see how much faster the her fuel would deplete. Now it's like it's not double. It's just the same as both. So look how much longer you can have it up for. Moving on to Raze. Showstopper, ultimate cost changed from 6 to 7 ult points. Raze's ultimate is one of the most impactful in the game and useful in almost any situation. As a result, it is being used a bit too often, so we're upping the cost by 1, which should help reduce how often players have to face her Showstopper. I don't think this is a big enough nerf, honestly. As a Raze main, sorry, not a Raze main. As somebody who plays Raze quite often, I usually get my ult by the 3rd round, almost like pretty consistently too. Her kit is super powerful on pistol rounds when they don't have armor or anything. So I think this might make Razes have 1 less ult in the duration of like 1 full match, but I don't think that this is enough. I really don't. Also, they changed Brimstone ult from 6 to 7 as well. I think this is good too. I do think that like you could get Brim ult really fast as well. So I think this is good too. I just don't know if this is the change, if this changes enough for both of these agents. I guess for Brimstone it is, but I think they might have to rework her abilities a little bit again. I don't really know. Much like Raze's ultimate, Brimstone's ult is very impactful and useful in a wide variety of situations. We feel like it was impacting rounds a little too frequently, so I decided to up the cost slightly. Stim Beacon no longer buffs enemies and no longer shows its effect radius to enemies. The Stim Beacon is meant to be a pretty situation, but we felt that revealing Brimstone's location having the potential to accidentally buff enemies, making this ability significantly weaker than we'd like. I still think this is pretty trash. I don't think this is going to really change it a lot. I mean, most people just would use it as like a bait. Now you can't really even bait it. And I guess it's good that it doesn't buff your enemies, but the best Brims, they don't just throw their stim down where it could even buff enemies, right? They throw it like as your team is entering, as like your whole team is running through it. Like you don't throw it into the enemy team for the most part. So I don't really think that's going to make that big of a difference, but we'll see. Brimstone's arms fidelity. When you really think about an FPS, you will notice and you spend an awful amount of time looking at your arms. Like arms? Like arms? Like all the time. Before launch, we intend to increase the fidelity of Brimstone's arms to match the overall quality of the game. We did it. Now look at those guns. His arms are swole. Okay. Kind of a pointless thing, but sure. Great. Cypher. Cypher cages can now be picked up during the buy phase. As a Cypher player, that is a big update. A big quality of life change for Cypher. A lot of times you would just like randomly throw your cage down in pregame. It's like, why can't I pick this up, dude? It's just going to sit here the entire time. I'm so glad I just wasted one of my cages just because I'm stupid. Weapon updates. The classic right click was the primary bug fix here. Don't tell me you changed the right click, but we saw an opportunity to make the weapon behave a bit more consistently. We slightly tuned efficacy of jump right clicks, but hopefully haven't taken away their valuability in close range scenarios. Fixed bug where running in action the right click was much higher than intended. Well, it's literally it's a burst fire gun, so it should be accurate while you're running, but regardless, it's like a shotgun, but regardless, running was adding a 1.5 penalty because it was referencing our generalized running area curves for pistols. Fixed a bug where jumping had no inaccuracy penalty. kind of like what the Glock was in 1.6. Running spread is changed from 3.4 to 2.1. Primarily a bug fix. Jumping spread changed from 1.9 to 2.3. Walking spread changed from 1.9 to 1.95. Added a 10% bonus to accuracy when crouching and stationary. Intent is to feel consistent with crouch, providing an accuracy benefit. So it sounds like they're trying to make the right click classic not as powerful, even though I don't think it was too overpowered, but it might have been pretty good. But the more important, like, I think that's annoying because, I mean, for the most part, people only right click with the classic when they're close anyway. So I don't think that's going to be that big of a nerf. I mean, we'll have to see how bad it is. But I think the accuracy when crouching and stationary is going to be big. So there's a lot of times when you crouch with the classic and then you're just shooting at somebody and you dink them and then your recoil goes all the way out to the sky and stuff. So yeah, well, I think that's a good thing. I think a lot of people think the classic is trash. As somebody who only pretty much plays the classic, I think it's fine. I'm just worried because the thing about pistols is they've always been accurate while running. Like, in all versions of Counter-Strike, in all FPS games I've played, like your pistols, minus the Deagle, of course, from Counter-Strike, your pistol, like, your recoil is slightly impacted by running, but you're able to, if you shoot slow enough while you're running, you're able to actually, like, control it. So overall, the quick recap, they buffed VIPER a lot. They made her ultimate a lot better. The time it takes to be outside of her ult, you know, if you throw VIPER's ult and you walk out of it, you used to have 5 seconds before it went down. Now you have 12 seconds. And then they also made it so that when you walk out of her ult, or I don't know if you can do it while you're inside of her ult, but you're able to actually put her ult down yourself by pressing alt again. And it allows a lot more outplay mechanics for VIPER. Also, her decay was increased from 10 to 15 seconds, or 15 damage per second. And it takes 2.5 seconds once you move out of her smokes or wall to actually regain that health back. So it's kind of a big buff. And obviously having both her smoke and her wall up at the same time doesn't drain poison faster. It just drains it like there's only one up. So again, it makes it easier to have both up, and it makes it easier to, like, do stuff. Raze and Brimstone's ult went from 6 points to 7 points, and they did some buffs to the stim beacon, and Brimstone's arms are now high def, I guess. And Cypher's cages can be picked up during the freeze time, and they nerfed the classic right click, the burst fire, so that it's harder to jump and shoot and move with the right click. They buffed the standing still and crouched left click. So I think that's good. And everything else is just kind of like whatever.